Hi, and thanks for joining us. Today, I want to take a look at our Widget Desktop, how we configure it, and how we use it. First, I'm going to log into our demo site that's at our corporate office up in Boston. And you'll see I've just got an Internet Explorer window open. And it's on our Pronto VR, I've got our video stream and our activity log and our landing page where we are here. Most people use this page just to get a quick heads-up information. However, where most people live in the system, the day-to-day use of the system, is actually in our fully customizable Widget Desktop. I'll click on the Widget Desktop link at the very top of the page, which is configurable. That button is configurable. And I'm presented with an option to be able to load a layout that's already been pre-configured. I've laid one out for myself here called ARL2. I'm going to pick that and log in. I've pre-configured this in a couple of ways. I've got two different video windows open, which I can configure and move around as I would like. You'll see that I've got an Explorer window open too. I can actually browse the web from within the Internet Explorer here if I wanted. Some people use this for things like Twitter. In order to use the Explorer, you click up in the top left-hand corner of the Explorer window here, and it'll ask you what you're looking for. Are you going to secure site in FTP? Do you have whatever URL you want to put in there, for instance Twitter or CNN, however you choose to use it, and any refresh time, if you wanted it to automatically refresh that page for you. For now, I'll just close the Explorer window. See, I have a couple of different windows open here at the moment, and I've got two cameras running at the same time. The first thing I'm going to do is change one of those cameras, and in fact I'll put it on a tour. I'm going to put it on our entrances tour, and I'm going to let that go around. Next, I'm going to close the second window. I don't need that open right now, so we'll let that tour continue. I have several other windows that are open. You see I've got my activity log here, and again, these are all configurable. I can have this lay and look out exactly how I would like to have it. I have my activity log at the left, my events, and my portal status all in one area. My auto monitor events, things that require my acknowledgement. We had 2 invalid accesses and 2 events that require my acknowledgement, which I can click into. And of course I've got my camera going on my tour up here, which is fine. You'll see I have a status for the tamper switches that exist on the micronodes and the other network nodes. I can easily come in and see the status of the various hardware. And I'll close that for now. I've got a clock, and I've got some statistical information. How long I've been logged in for, when did I log in, how many unacknowledged alarms there were, basic information like that. I'm able to open more windows by clicking down here at the bottom on the desktop button. This is where I can open and close more windows. For instance, if I wanted to open up an Explorer window again, I could have that in here. I could go ahead and open more camera views, as we've seen before. There's another camera. And for instance, I might want to go back to our open area PTZ camera. Or I could put this camera on a separate tour, if that's what I wanted. I can also resize and edit the size of these windows on the fly. So if I wanted to make this a much larger window and take full advantage of this wonderful PTZ camera, this is how I'd be able to accomplish that. You see again, the closer I am into the middle of the screen, the smaller the arrow. The further out I get, the larger the arrow. That has to do with the quickness and speed of the PTZ camera and how quickly it's going to turn around. Again, as we covered in the other video, we're actually able to use our scroll wheel on our mouse or the plus and minus buttons here in the middle of the screen to zoom in or zoom out. I'm just going to use my scroll wheel. Of course, all the other features that exist when using the cameras exist here as well. For instance, as I showed you above, we could put it on a tour. These are pre-configured tours that I'll be able to take you through and show you how we do. And of course, our presets. This is specific to this camera, positions that we've saved that we want the camera to return to. Position 2 or position 1. There's position 1. And I'll close that window for now. Another neat feature that exists in most of the browsers, of course I'm using Internet Explorer at this time, is also the ability to put it in what's known as full screen mode. In Internet Explorer, this is the key that you can press to achieve this is by pressing F11. When I press F11, you'll see the top of the page disappears as well as my taskbar down at the bottom. These are just hidden temporarily. They still are there. I could press F11 to return back if I so chose. However, this really does feel like a piece of software at this point. Also, if you have an extended desktop across multiple displays, this will work just the same way. If you're using more than one monitor, you can extend your desktop across many monitors very simply within Windows itself, if your graphics card will support it. And that would allow you to put it in full screen mode, giving you as many monitors as you have available to you to stretch the screen across. On my personal display, I have 3 monitors set up. On my right monitor, I have various cameras on tours and various cameras that I'm watching. On the center screen, I have my activity log and other information, my events, my portal status, and other things that are relevant to me. And on my left monitor, I have CNN and other websites and other information. Again, this is not necessarily a feature of something that we've done. However, given that it is in a browser, it doesn't require any specific drivers or any additional software for you to be able to achieve something like that if you had multiple monitors and you extended your desktop across many of them. So this is one that I've designed specifically for my needs given my role in the system, and this is what I'm allowed to do with it. And again, I can add and close windows if I wanted to. And if I want to exit out of this Widget Desktop display, I could just click Exit, and it'll take me back to the landing page. Now, if we want to configure a Widget Desktop for somebody, for instance, if we had a specific role that we wanted to have a specific view, we could do that. I'm first going to go over here to our System Setup menu, and we can see down here that we have our cameras. Within cameras, we have the presets that I showed you, those locations that the cameras typically go to. We have our tours. But in this case, what we want to do is specifically set up a Widget Desktop, and so we'll hit Compose. When we hit Compose, it brings up a list of all the available layouts that are available to us. These are some pre-configured ones. I'm going to start with a default window, for example. This is a default view that comes with the system as a standard, and this is typically how we start building one. Everything we do in here we can save. How we configure the windows, how many of them we have open, in what order they're opened. We can configure all of this information right now. So, for instance, if I wanted to take this camera and I wanted to move it further down, I could bring it down. Put it all the way down on the bottom right hand corner of the page. And I'm going to take this camera and put it over here, the top right. And I might just go ahead and make this one larger as well. Of course, I could resize it a variety of different ways, but right now that'll overlap. I'm going to put this camera on a tour of entrances and just resize that to be a little bit smaller. And I'm going to put this one, again, I'll make this one a little bit smaller too. And we're going to make this one into our tour of all of our secure areas that we've already set up in the system. And I'm just going to drag that window up next to this one. So we've configured the 2 cameras that we want to have open, or at least the 2 camera windows that we want to have open. And I'll just resize that slightly. And again, you see you have all the PTZ control in here as well. Now I want to change around the way that my activity log looks. My events, my auto monitor. For instance, I want my activity log to take up the entire screen on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to go and expand my activity log. I'm going to put my events up at the top here, stretch that across just so it fits. My auto monitor events, I might just put that down in the bottom right hand corner here. Now we want to open up some more windows, so I might for instance open a portal status. This gives me the current status of all the doors that I have available to me. And this would allow me to open and close doors as I saw fit. I could also edit the schedules from within here by clicking here. Editing a schedule, I could add a new schedule event by clicking on the plus sign. And for instance, I could have an unlock action at a specific time that starts and ends at my pre-configured needs. I might also want, as I showed before, an Explorer window open. Now of course we're in a browser, so you could also easily open up another tab if you so chose. However, sometimes it's more convenient to have it built right on into the actual system that you're using. And for instance, a lot of groups do use Twitter or other sites to communicate amongst themselves. Of course, some people prefer the Another thing I may want to do now is go ahead and open another Explorer window. Granted, we're in a browser, so you could easily add another tab at the top of the browser window if you so chose. But in this case, I might want to have the information up and relevant to me right here. This can be used for almost anything. If you have some kind of web system that you use to track events or incidents, if you have some kind of procurement system you want to be logged into, or if you just want to keep up on news that might be relevant to you in a high security environment, we could come in here, we click in the top left, you can type in a website address, for instance cnn.com, and there. So this should give you a general idea of how customizable it is. You can move these around, resize windows, all the things that we want to do. I'm pretty pleased with the way that this looks right now. This is definitely a layout that I want to save and keep to use in the future. So for now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is save the layout as. I click on the desktop button at the bottom, and I go all the way up to save layout as. It's giving me an option. Because I started this template using default, it's asking me if I want to use default again and save this as the default. In this case, I do not. I'm going to create a new one, and I'll call it ARL3. And it has been saved. So I've got my new layout that I'm happy with, and I'm going to go ahead and exit. Of course, if you wanted to create yet another one from here, if you wanted to rename it or delete it, you'd be able to do that from within this section as well. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and exit. Now when I go to my Widget Desktop window at the top here, you'll see I have ARL3, the one we just made. There are the windows. Now you notice that every time I log in to the Widget Desktop, it asks me if I want to choose a specific profile for my viewing pleasure. It's very easy to change that, and you can change that when you first add somebody into the system, or when you or on the fly if you wanted to do so at a later time. So for example, if I wanted to change my default layout, I could do so by finding myself first. So in this case, I'm just type in my last name, and it's found me. I can see my access ID, my photo, etc. It's in there, my recent activity. But when I log in, my login credentials to logging into the system, I have a couple of things. First, my user role, whether I set myself up to be a administrator, or just a monitor, or of course the system setup. This will actually change the amount of features that I have available to me in the system. It also asks me what my default Widget Desktop profile should be. You can see that it's all pre-configured here. So if I wanted to now set that ARL3 that we've just created as my default login, that is the only one that will be available to me as I log in. I can hit save. And now when I click on the Widget Desktop, you'll see it doesn't present me with the option any longer to choose which one I want. It automatically logs me into the one that I've been basically granted access to. This is perfect for if you have multiple shifts who want to have different views, or just multiple people who access the system regularly. This is the best place for you to go and set up a pre-configure of exactly what they would want to see and save that information for them. And they can save it by their own name if they so chose. And so that concludes our brief introduction into the Widget Desktop.